This is Switched On.
Hello and welcome back to the Switched On podcast. This is your host, Akshay Koti Bhaskar, and for those of you who are new, this podcast is dedicated to those who find themselves struggling with the ominous task of choosing a career. Regardless of whether you're one of those people or not, and if you would like to ease the process of figuring out what career is truly right for you, or simply gain a more knowledgeable and informed perspective, look no further. Every session will present a different job from a different sector, and explore exactly what each job entails, as well as the required interests to work in the field. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Jyoti Lalchandani, coming from the International Data Corporation, which is the premier global provider of market intelligence, advisory services and events for the IT, telecom and consumer technology markets. The IDC helps IT professionals, business executives and the investment community make fact-based decisions on technology purchases and business strategy. And for 50 years, the IDC has been a subsidiary of the IDG, the world's leading technology media, research and events company. Mr. Lalchandani is the Group Vice President and Regional Managing Director of the IDC in the Middle East, Turkey and Africa. As a seasoned business executive with more than 25 years of experience in emerging markets across EMEA, Mr. Lalchandani has been instrumental in establishing IDC's presence in the region, through the initial expansion of the Dubai headquarters and then by spearheading the development of the IDC offices in key cities around the region. As VP and Regional MD, Mr. Lalchandani is responsible for the planning, development, implementation and coordination of the IDC's market intelligence and advisory services across the region. As a respected authority on emerging market tech trends, he is also regularly invited to speak at major industry events throughout the region and is frequently quoted by both the national and international media. His field of expertise includes key tech areas such as cloud, analytics, and artificial intelligence, and he is well known for providing guidance on digital transformation strategies. And before joining the IDC, he graduated from Loyola College in India, where his studies focused on strategy management and business policy. Welcome, Mr. Lalchandani, and thank you very much for being here today on this podcast. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Akshay. It's great to be here, and I'm so glad that that we both found some time to do this. I think the folks listening will really benefit from this conversation. So thanks for having me.
No worries. Firstly, Mr. Lalchandani, I think the listeners are probably most curious as to why you do what you do. How did you initially become interested in this field or profession?
Well, I can be very diplomatic and say that I had always planned to be in this profession, but the honest truth is that it was just a chance encounter and a chance conversation that I had just right after I completed my university degree. I was in Africa doing an internship with one of the largest banks in Nigeria, and my plan was to maybe get a bit more work experience and then pursue my master's degree in the US. Sure. I had an opportunity to interact with a couple colleagues from my student organization called ISEC, and ISEC offered student exchange programs. And during one of those conversations, I had an opportunity to interact with a company that was based out of the US, but was expanding its footprint in Central and Eastern Europe. And so I got an opportunity to talk to them, and they were kind of establishing their presence in a very exciting region that was going through a lot of changes. I thought it would be exciting to spend maybe 9 to 12 months there, live in a different part of the world. I've never been to Eastern Europe before. And that's how I started working with IDC, which is a global market intelligence and an advisory firm that's focused on the technology industry.
Right. And can you tell us a bit about yourself, such as your interests, skills, and what do you like to do outside of work?
Well, outside of work, work keeps me very busy, at least during the work week. I try not to work on Saturdays and Sundays, the weekend.
Right.
In Dubai, that's where I'm based. But my interests are, I spend a lot of time with family because it's my work is fairly stressful during the week. Different work hours, we've got offices around the world, so a lot of interactions that run through the middle of the night sometimes. So weekends are reserved for family. I like to play sport. I like paddle. I've started playing. Golf as well. I enjoyed it. I haven't got back. I still need to get some time to get back to it. I like reading. I like listening to music, and spending time with family. So very, very relaxed weekends. Really some time to kind of unwind and get ready for the week ahead.
And would you say that your industry provides ample time for these interests and hobbies?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about how you prioritize your time. I feel, at the rare occasions that I work over the weekends, that I'm not extremely focused and sharp during the work week. So I made it a point several years ago, at least 15 years ago, not to work on the weekends. And so, every industry has its pressures. There are time pressures, there are client pressures. And so you've got to prioritize, how do you want to effectively spend your work week, and the same for the weekends as well. So every industry has its own stresses and its own challenges, but it's an individual choice that you need to make of how you want to spend your weekends.
Sure. And you mentioned earlier the stress that your job has. Would you say that this is a very big challenge that you face in your day-to-day life?
It's something that I faced initially during my career. Of course, I was single at that point, so I was a lot more mobile. I could work 15, 16 hours a day. As soon as I started a family, you kind of realize that you got to prioritize. You need to divide your time equally between your work life and your personal life. And that's the way it goes, right? You got to prioritize, and you got to see different stages of your career. You'll have different focus areas and priorities, and as you evolve with time, you got to find the right balance that works for you. So there have been opportunities that have come my way that required me to work longer hours and perhaps travel more, and I've kind of given up on those. I've given up on those opportunities along the way because I felt it wasn't the right time for me to do that. If it was 20 years ago, I would have probably taken that opportunity, but now I'm at a very different phase of my life where I want to consolidate. I want to focus on things that I really care about, and then I want to find the right balance between professional and my personal life.
Sure. And speaking of the challenges that you face in your role, what are the biggest ones of these, and how do you usually overcome them?
Well, there are multiple challenges, right? So there are external challenges and there are internal challenges. When I talk about external challenges, and this is challenges, global economic slowdown, for example, or the transformation that I see in the tech industry, and the disruption that we see. The tech industry is evolving at a very fast pace, and so there's constant disruption and constant transformation. So, how you navigate through that in terms of navigate the external challenges is one aspect that you need to think about. Then there are internal challenges. Right? Internal challenges, from my own work perspective, I would say is that getting access to the right skills is extremely difficult, at least in this part of the world, in the Middle East and Africa region. The supply of skills, far lower than the demand for the skills. So, getting the right people, recruiting the right people, training them, retaining them is a significant challenge for me. That's something that, I constantly think about and worry about, because we are in the people business. Our clients rely on our skill sets as individuals. So getting access to the right skills is an internal challenge that keeps me up at night.
Right. And can you provide a brief overview of the role you play within the organization? And what are the main responsibilities and tasks you handle on a daily basis?
Sure. So, I work for a firm called IDC, and IDC is a global market intelligence. It's an advisory firm that's focused purely on the IT and telecom industries. So my role essentially is overseeing IDC's operations across the Middle East region, across Turkey, and across the African continent. So we've got a network of offices in multiple locations around this region, and my role, I kind of oversee the entire operation. So we've got teams of analysts, consultants, events associates, operations teams across this geography. So my role is basically to lead this region, to provide strategic direction, to ensure that our customer expectations are met, and also, part of the global leadership team where I represent the Middle East and Africa region.
Okay. And are there any particular aspects of your job that you find especially rewarding or fulfilling?
I think, in my role, I get, very close and up kind of opportunity to meet with our customers. And, in our role as IDC, we are, constantly looking at helping our customers solve their business problems. So as a consultant, the greatest, joy I get is, when I speak to customers and, we get credit for helping them solve that business challenge, whatever the challenge may be. That's something I really look forward to, engaging with our customers to hear about how we are actually helping them navigate through those challenges and how we help them overcome those challenges. So the greatest, message that I get from customers, a happy client in terms of, giving us credit for helping them resolve those challenges and overcome those challenges. That's the greatest, message and credit that I give the entire team. So that's something that's really fulfilling. You feel really proud about how the team is working together to solve that customer challenge.
Okay. And how do you strike a balance between your personal life and your career? And do you have any advice for maintaining this balance?
Well, it's a very personal choice that every individual has to make. As I mentioned earlier, I think it depends on what phase and what part of your life you're in. When you're starting out, of course, you kind of focus almost entirely on your job, right? You're trying to build a career, you're going to make a career, you're trying to get involved as much as possible, you're trying to learn a lot, you're trying to, do a lot more than you should be, and that's because you're trying to build that career within the organization. It's a choice that you have to make, right? And as you progress through life, you have other sets of responsibilities that come in, family and maybe other personal interests that you may have, and so on and so forth. So I would say the most important thing, the advice I would give, folks is, at least young kids, is to prioritize and look at what is it that you really care about, and what's your, how do you want to live your life? There is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. There's only right and left, right? It's just a different way of looking at things. And what may seem reasonable to one person may seem very unreasonable to someone else. So, listen to what you have to say. Think about what really matters to you. And then prioritize. You don't have to jump at everything, every single opportunity that comes your way. You'll have to pick and choose if you want to live a more fulfilling life as you go along.
Okay, I think that's great advice. Can you describe any common misconceptions or myths about your job or industry that students may have, and perhaps debunk any?
Well, a lot of folks think that, in the consulting industry, in the consulting space, that you kind of get burnt out within 6 to 9 years. And I've heard that comment quite a few times. Well, it is fairly hectic. It's a high pressure environment because your customers are, constantly looking to you to help them solve problems and handhold them and so on and so forth. But the consulting industry is a very rewarding industry in the sense that you get a 360-degree view of everything that's happening in that industry, and also what's happening at various clients in multiple industries around the world. So the kind of learning that you can get, the deep insight that you can get on a specific industry or a customer challenge is extremely rewarding. And I also think it's, the kind of individuals that you meet, at a client site, multiple who have multiple positions. You could be speaking to the CFO one day, you could speak to the CEO one day, you could speak to the chief strategy officer the other day. The kind of insight and the access that you get to leadership teams within your customer base is phenomenal. So the common myth is that consulting is high pressure, but it gets boring and monotonous over time. That's not true. I think it's very intellectually stimulating. You get an opportunity to travel and build relationships at multiple levels across any of your client organizations. So that I would really say is is something that folks can look forward to if they join consulting or in the tech space and so on. And the technology industry and the tech is really today driving and transforming multiple industries. Right? You think about the role of technology in retail, or role of technology in public services, or healthcare, or education. Or banking, right? So you're saying technology plays such an important role that it's a very exciting industry. It's very fast-paced, and I would say that technology is really going to underpin a lot of the transformation that we're going to see across multiple industries.
Okay. And in addition, therefore, do you recommend your field of work to students? And in the future, do you think it is a market that will grow or decline?
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely recommend this. I recommend this field to my own kids. They see it. They find it extremely stimulating. They find it very exciting. They find it a very kind of a challenging job in terms of the work pressure, but they also see how fulfilling it is. I would definitely recommend this to kids who are looking to get deeper insight, to build their knowledge about what's happening, build those insights. I definitely think it's a great opportunity for kids to explore. Absolutely.
Okay. And for students wishing to apply for a job in your industry, what advice would you give about educational and career paths? For instance, what degree should they attain?
Well, in the consulting space, regardless of the industry in which you operate, consulting is an industry that attracts kids and folks from a wide range of backgrounds, right? So that could be, in our own team and in other teams I've seen across the board in other consulting organizations. You would have folks from economics background, from legal backgrounds, from business backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, because at the end of the day, you are helping your customer across multiple facets of their organization. So,
sure.
You need to have a very diverse set of knowledge and expertise. And the way the teams are built in the consulting space is that you bring in subject matter experts who have come from multiple backgrounds, right? Very diverse set of backgrounds, because you bring in fresh perspectives, you have a different way of looking at things. And oftentimes the best advice and the best recommendations for customers come from folks who are from a completely different background, because they look at things very differently. So I would say, there's no right or wrong specialization. It's just different, and that becomes extremely useful in a client conversation. So, consulting is an area that you can come from any background, and you will add value to the customer.
Okay. And do you have any personal advice as to what skills or qualifications are necessary to succeed in your position?
Rather than hard skills, hard skills are, of course, very subjective. I think soft skills in our industry, and also in, not just now, but also in the future, I think are going to be even more important than the hard skills. So when I talk about soft skills, I mean, your ability to work hard, be curious as an individual, right? You got to be extremely inquisitive and curious about everything that around you. You need to be a constant learner, right? So it's not that you're learning in your school or your college or university and then the learning stops. No, learning never stops, right? You got to constantly keep abreast of what's happening in every industry. You need to be curious. You need to intellectually challenge yourself each time. Your communication skills are extremely important, because you can have a great idea, you could have different perspective, but if you're unable to communicate effectively, you're really not being able to influence the way your customer thinks. So I would say definitely curiosity and communication skill extremely critical. And I would say patience as well, because oftentimes things don't go your way. You can easily give up. But if you have absolute conviction in your thoughts and your ideas, then you need to keep at it, right? You need to be patient. You need to work the system to ensure that your ideas and your suggestions get implemented at the customer side. So patience, you actually committed a job, you got to work hard, and be intellectually curious and communicate effectively. Those soft skills, I think, are going to be even more important moving forward compared to the hard skills.
Yeah. And speaking of, and referring to those connections that you mentioned earlier, in your experience, how crucial is networking within your industry, and what strategies can individuals employ to build meaningful connections that enhance their career prospects?
Well, I think building connections and building relationships is extremely important. Not just in the tech industry or consulting industry, but any industry, right? In the end, people like to work with other people. They want to build a connect. They want to be comfortable. They want to trust you as an individual. There are many forums and opportunities today, unlike 15, 20 years ago when I was starting out. And you've got LinkedIn where you can effectively engage with folks. You've got so many online platforms where you can reach out and connect with individuals that you think will add value. There are so many open events and conferences where you can go in and learn about a new topic area. Folks are a lot more connected and reachable today than they were 15, 20 years ago. So I would definitely encourage kids and students to kind of reach out. There are, I get multiple emails each month from folks I don't know and who are interested in something I spoke about at a conference or an article that I wrote in a newspaper, for example. And I'm happy to connect with individuals and keep the conversation going. So, stay in touch, communicate effectively, and leverage every single platform that's available in order to reach out and connect with individuals that you think can add value to your own environment.
Right. And as automation and artificial intelligence continue to influence industries, how do you see these technological advancements affecting the tech advisory landscape?
Well, quite significant. I'm actually,
Sure.
I was speaking at a conference today in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. And if you look at areas like AI and you look at Gen AI in particular, we are seeing machines and software code essentially doing a lot more than we could have ever have imagined. And so we're seeing multiple industries being disrupted, professional services, name it, right? Every single industry is going to be disrupted. So there are going to be jobs that are going to be disrupted because machines can do some of the activities and some of the jobs much more efficiently at a lower cost and much faster as well. So it's definitely going to disrupt multiple industries. At the same time, these technologies like AI and so on are also going to create new sets of jobs. And so, I think as an individual, you'll have to think about, what are your core interest areas and think about, how can you complement or supplement how technology is going to play out over the next few years, which means that, you've got to think about what are the areas where humans are actually going to be complementing or supplementing the work of machines and software and so on. So AI is in particular, Gen AI and other parts of AI are going to be hugely disruptive to industries around the world. So that's something that everyone needs to watch out for.
Okay. And with the increasing emphasis on sustainability and social responsibility, how is the industry adapting, and what impact does it have on career choices and opportunities?
Well, if you look at sustainability, I think it's definitely becoming a C-suite agenda item, which means that CEOs and board level folks are now increasingly looking at, what are their sustainability initiatives and, what kind of programs they're implementing within their organization. To be fair, there's a lot of talk about it right now, but we don't see any major changes by organizations. Having said that, I think it's quite clear that sustainability is going to get high on the agenda of CEOs and boards around the world. And for you as an individual, I think the choices that companies make in terms of their investments, in terms of making sure that they meet the ESG agenda or the environmental, social, and governance agenda is going to be critically important. And we're seeing a lot of younger folks like millennials and so on now placing a lot of emphasis on, how sustainable is this organization. So the career choices that many students will make will be centered around, how, sustainable or how responsible is this organization. So organizations also realize that in order to be an attractive employer, they need to fulfill some of their ESG commitments as well. So exciting times. This is going to evolve over time, but it's an area that we're definitely keeping an eye on.
Okay. And where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Well, it's a tough question, but regardless of whether I'm working in the corporate world, or if I'm maybe set up my own business and in whatever field it is, I definitely want to live a more balanced life. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I want to live a much more balanced life, in the sense that I want to spend equal amount of time with my family and work. It's kind of lopsided at the moment, but I want to fix that. I want to change that over the next 5 to 10 years. And I want to do something that's more impactful not just for a select group of customers, but for society at large. So I see myself getting involved in certain socio-economic kind of engagements and trying to contribute and give back to society as much as I can.
Okay. And if you were to start your career over again, is there anything that you would change? And would you stay in the same sector?
I would definitely stay in the same sector. On hindsight, everything looks different, but I would have perhaps taken a break from work and pursued my master's degree in the US. I perhaps would have done that. It didn't influence anything with regards to my career that I didn't do it, but but I'm right now regretting maybe not having pursued being an international student. So that's perhaps one of the regrets that I have. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I decide to get back into the field maybe a year or two from now, take a break from work and then come back to it again. So if the only regret I have is I probably would have done that when I was in my mid-20s and so on. But apart from that, I wouldn't change the industry. So very exciting space, changes all the time, very dynamic. And as I mentioned earlier, I think technology is going to underpin the transformation of every industry around the world. So very exciting and very fulfilling experience.
It's good to hear that you feel that you made the right choice in your field.
Yeah, I have no regrets. I think, if I had chosen another industry, perhaps it wouldn't have been so exciting. I would have perhaps changed multiple jobs, maybe shifted track. But I really, it's a very, very exciting time to be in the tech industry. If you look at large companies today, you look at the buzz around technology, you look at how it's influencing and transforming lives. If you think about the amount of unicorns that are being set up globally around the tech space, very, very exciting, and it's got backing from almost everyone out there. So really, really grateful and excited that I got an opportunity to be in the space.
And are internships or projects something you'd recommend for students to gain some practical experience in your sector? And do you think it would be a worthwhile advantage?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And I started as an intern, right? So I started as an intern. I was curious. I was inquisitive to understand this. I had a very, very different perspective of consulting and advisory when I just started my internship. And the only way to debunk all of that was to get involved and really understand, right in the middle of how it all works. So internships, active internships are very crucial. I think it gives you that 360-degree view of what it means to be a consultant, working on the sidelines, seeing how your customers are reacting, working on projects, getting your hands dirty. That's the only way to learn. And internships provide a great platform to learn, to form those meaningful relationships, and then get a sense of, is this really what you want to do, right? Is this something for you? Is this something that excites you or not? A great opportunity to do that as an intern. I would recommend internships to any of the students listening. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to go in there, explore, and then decide for yourself whether this is something that you'd like to pursue or not.
Right. And lastly, do you think you could share any resources or organizations that students can explore to learn more about your industry?
So in my industry, there are multiple platforms. I would say CIO.com, again, that's part of our family of publications. It's called CIO.com. It's a great asset where you can learn about, what are folks in the technology industry thinking. There's Technology for Dummies. That's really, bringing it down and explaining technology and transformation in simple terms. That's great. That's a great platform as well. IDC.com is also another great resource where you're able to understand what are the and how's the technology landscape evolving, how's the consulting industry evolving, and it's a great platform to at least get some initial reading about what's happening in the space. So I would definitely encourage students and listeners to tap into that and leverage that information as much as possible.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Lalchandani. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you for the opportunity, and wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much. You as well. Well, that's all we have for today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen. A big thank you once again to our guest today for agreeing to be a part of this podcast. And until next time, this is the Switched On Podcast.